Oh, welcome back to Double Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan. Today, I'm joined by my lovely full cohort of co-hosts: Brett,
Hello.
Alex, and Alex,
Hello.
Hello.
and Wyatt.
Hi.
We're here to talk
Hello.
about some Game Pass games that we played over the holiday season. We got a bunch to go through, 4 of them. We do this every month or so. I hope we're having a good time because Wyatt and I are a little dead. We're both recovering from sickness. So it's a
Are
fun
you
time.
recovering? I'm so happy for you.
Well, we'll see if by the end of this episode I'm coughing up a storm. So let's go ahead and kick it off with Alex.
The the game that I picked for our over the holiday season Game Pass episode was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R because it's a very interesting and funny IP. And I figured let's do a little bit more fighting game boot camp stuff because I enjoyed and unfortunately didn't retain as much information as I'd like from Ryan's Guilty Gear 1. And I think the overall control scheme for All-Star Battle R is a little bit more rememberable.
It's user-friendly. It's a
yeah.
user-friendly control scheme. This is an interesting one because I think Alex and I are the only people here who enjoy fighting games. So this really was us.
Yeah.
I like them once in a while. I'll admit I didn't get a chance to play this one because I moved, but
This is a wacky one. Alex and I played this a bunch before this episode. We do some friendly matches every now and then. Yeah, I think this is a great fighting game. It's a good low stakes fighting game, if that makes sense.
It's a good. I feel like it's a good first fighting game too, along the lines of Soul Calibur, where the button prompts aren't too insane,
Yeah,
but
it's
it
got
still
an
has
auto
that
combo.
interesting jank to it.
But it's not an auto combo that's so powerful that you feel like you're missing if you don't use it. So it's very much a friendly, kind of like in that Dragon Ball Fighters territory of being an approachable fighting game for newcomers. Same time,
That's a
Wyatt
good
had a terrible time.
I mean,
Absolutely terrible.
and that's no fault of the game itself. I just am not. I'm not the biggest fan of fighting games.
You also
Which
have
is why
no
I-
attachment to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which I think
Yeah.
is
No, not even
to
a
the point
little
where
bit.
Alex and I have both seen most of the show. I haven't seen some of the newer parts, but Alex ran a JoJo's tabletop campaign for a couple of us.
The only thing I know about JoJo's is that it's an anime that like so many people that I knew in college kept telling me to watch. And every single time I was like, nope.
I was gonna say the more people who tell you to watch an anime, it's the less likely people are to
Yeah.
watch it. So just like
The
It's the
easier it is to ignore.
It's
Yeah.
the only thing that I know about it.
it's the best way I know how to describe. Like also somewhat kind of our experience with the game as well, but with the series in general. It's the funniest application of random BS possible. For like pulling out random physics facts that are blatantly false out of your ass to turn the tides in a fight, or things like that. And then there are just some characters in the game who steamroll.
Yeah, it's one of those games where there are certain characters that are much more easy to use if you're a first timer, and some that we still haven't figured out. Neither one of us knows how to play whole horse for anything.
I would say there is a pretty good like roster of different character types. You got the trap characters. There's mounted characters on horses. The trap characters. There are stand users and non-stand
variety.
users with alternate like fighting styles essentially that change up their moveset.
Yeah, I think basically every major archetype of fighting game character has representation here. This is weird to go back to after playing Street Fighter 6, I think, just because Street Fighter 6 is so flashy and new that I'm too used to it at this point. So it feels weird going back, and this is a remake of an older game. It's a remake of a 360 game, so there's some older design stuff here. There's not a ton of stages, which is probably my biggest complaint. I think the amount of stages is not approaching the amount of really cool characters that there are, and I would like to have seen like 2 or 3 stages from each part rather than 1 for most of them. But
Yeah, I
that's
was
like a
hoping that
super
they'd add
nitpicky complaint.
stages with the DLC, but I get
Yeah.
that they wouldn't do that with the season passes. They have been adding. I don't know how many more season passes they're going to have, but they have been adding some pretty fun characters in with
I believe
the season
Wonder
passes
Review is the last
themselves.
character, so I think it's just 2.
Okay.
I will say the single player offering here is not super meaty. It's better than games that just have an arcade mode,
Yeah,
but nowhere near Soul Calibur level or like
yeah, it's
Mortal Kombat.
essentially a lighter diet version of like the JoJo storyline so far up until part 6, and then for parts 7 and 8, there's not really
It's like a challenge
story
fighter,
content, yeah, as much as it's like, okay, you're facing off against all the other JoJo's type thing going on. Because I'm not entirely certain when parts 7 and 8 were like
8 was
finished
in
written for them to be able
progress
to.
while this game was being made.
Yeah.
So the original
So-
version of this game, not the new version.
So it makes sense that there wouldn't really be any story content for the part 8 JoJo.
I mean,
for that.
I think I know the answer to this question when I ask: is anyone else here gonna keep playing this game aside from Alex and I?
No.
Yeah, no.
No. It's I mean, because I don't have any attachment to JoJo either. But I don't know. I still have Guilty Gear Strive. And I play that from time to time, and I think that's you could do more cool things easily in Strive than you can in what not very much I've played with All Star Battle R against my my roommate who is a JoJo fan but doesn't really play fighting games. But yeah.
Yeah, I will say I do think one huge thing this game is going for it is the supers are all really good.
Yeah.
This is
Very
a thing
fun
that,
animations.
Like, Guilty Gear generally has good supers. I think Strive actually has less, just because a lot of supers are utility supers in Strive and don't really have like the funky animations that you get from older Guilty Gears. Especially when Exert, everyone had an instant kill, so you could charge up an instant kill. That would be incredibly cool. Strive doesn't have that, so you miss a little bit of that, like, especially for players that aren't fighting game fans and get super into it. The cool supers are just a fun thing for people to see, to like get a little bit of emotion out of them during a match. But
yeah, they did something really cool with the at least like in the behind the scenes action that I saw for the game was like someone going through the process of animating the characters for their like different for the for the different supers. I'm getting very tongue tied today. And they have this thing where for a lot of 3D models, you typically have a lot of ways to manipulate it locked. So it's just, moving and rotating joints and things like that. Scaling is unlocked for these characters. And it's specialized in the rig to have like some forced perspective moments, to have like the fist be very upfront in there to the point where they just like scale it up to 5 times the size of someone's head.
Yeah, that's the same way
they
that
can
Guilty
just do that
Gear
with the camera angles.
does their special moves and animations. They don't really obey the laws of proportion.
And there's someone
2D
squash and
animation,
stretch
you
and
wouldn't do that. So
and just like absolutely breaking joints too.
Yeah, good looking game for being a 360 game for sure. I think this looks great, and especially because they went with an art style instead of having to like. I mean, JoJo's obviously is not very realistic, so it would be pointless to try to do a realistic style. But I think compared to like something like Mortal Kombat 9, this has aged much better.
It is really fun to see how they transferred the Araki style into 3D.
Yeah,
too.
For sure.
That's always neat seeing very stylized things.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all we've got to say on this. I mean, I enjoy it. I have a fun time. I'm sure we'll keep playing this occasionally. But aside from that, moving on to our next person, because Alex, you are our gameless picker this time.
That's true. I have waived my right to torture.
Because we have 5 people, so we're trying to limit the amount of games that we pick just to 4 each
Okay,
month, so you will have
torture.
a guaranteed pick next time. So, who's ready to go next?
Go next. Yeah, I'll go next. So I picked Mountain Blade Bannerlord as a complete, like, I'd never played any of the Mountain Blade games before, so this was a, hey, let's see if I enjoy this. It was more of a selfish pick than anything else. It's kind of hard to like describe what it is because it's a lot of different things. It's part like medieval simulator, part RPG, part strategy game.
Part
I
kingdom
guess
builder,
that's
which we didn't really
part
get to.
kingdom builder. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on. Um, but essentially, you start off with your group of merry men. You travel around the world, and you completely ignore the main quest because I'll get to it when I'll get to it.
Yeah, I kind
Um,
of. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I
oh
kind of
no no
like
no
the
no
the
no, it's
main
fine.
quest in this game. I've played all the previous ones, and I have no memory of there really even being a main quest. But in this one, it was kind of just like, here's this like general thing you can do
It's
as
also
you
really
play through the
boring.
game.
It's also kind of boring. But you travel around with your little group of merry men. You take on little quests, little jobs from towns, from this absolutely gigantic, holy crap, huge open world that is just absolutely ridiculously big.
Which
And
notably,
you
this is like
slowly,
it's a third person action game, except for on the open world, which is like an overworld that you click around in to move.
which
Yeah,
feels kind of strategy game
Yeah,
almost
it's like
in a
that's sort
weird
of
I
where the
would
way.
strategy
say it
support comes
does.
in.
But it also kind of feels like a turn-based RPG overworld too. It's very
What I don't
strange.
describe it as, it's like Total War if you got to play one of the soldiers, right?
Yeah, yeah. But you're traveling around this world. You're picking up small quests. You're visiting towns. And quests can involve things like go attack these bandits. It could be protect this caravan. It could be get these cattle from one town to another, that sort of thing.
Go collect
And
taxes is one that you can get from like lords and
if
whatnot.
you get, yeah. And so you're just building up this little group of guys, and eventually you get to massive armies, and you can start to have your own castle and rule your own kingdom and tax your citizens and wage war, and you can engage in the political aspect of it too if you want to.
Definitely haven't
Or
gotten that far.
well, yeah, I haven't either. But or you can just go around and just be a little group of mercenaries and participate in tournaments and stuff. Just really whatever you want. There's a lot
I
of
had a lot of
freedom.
fun. I had a lot of fun doing the tournaments, even though they're kind of the same every time. I don't know.
Oh, the tournaments are great, and you usually get pretty good rewards from tournaments as well. But yeah, there's just a lot to do. It's a big sandbox. There's tons of stuff going on.
Rewards. Is there like a
Um,
gear system? Or is it
oh yeah.
mainly resources and things like that for
Oh, there's a gear system. Well, there's gear and there's resources. So there's gear for you and all of your lieutenants, and you can drip them out in armor, weapons, ranged weapons, that kind of thing. But you also need food in order to feed all your soldiers to keep everyone happy, and you also need money in order to pay everyone. So obviously, the larger your army gets, the more complicated it is to run because you need food. You need also the more horses you have, the quicker you can move around the up. There's a lot going
Yeah,
on.
you gotta have the money to pay all your people every time
Mm.
upkeep comes around. And there's
Yep.
like ways to set up
Yeah,
passive income, but that's pretty hard to do. If like you have to commit to having a workshop that will build things that there might occasionally be trouble with that you have to deal with and stuff like that.
yeah. It's really in depth, and it's not where if you get the ball rolling, I think it's easy enough to keep the ball rolling. But
Mhm.
it actually involved like a second. I have played this game most out of any of these games. In fact, just before we were
I think
recording,
this
I
one
was
got its
playing it
hooks in
more.
a few of us, especially.
I've played all the other ones. I like Mountain Blade. It's unique. It's jank, but it's
Yeah.
unique and it's something I really
Although I
like.
will
But
say, surprisingly, for a game this huge and a studio this small, not nearly as much jank as you would expect. Like for the
Yeah.
scope of what they're working at, I'm actually really impressed at how jank free a lot of it is, or
Oh,
how
so
minimal the jank
yeah,
is.
I can
they've had 3 other jank games to
I can see how like cool and fun this game has the potential to be for me, but I keep on I honestly I keep having the same reaction I did for oh god, what was was it Age of Empires?
Yeah.
Rise?
Yeah.
I keep having that same reaction with the sort of the top down strategy. I don't know why I keep like not being able to get into them as much. Because there is the third person action bit, and it feels okay.
It's definitely it's a directional combat system, which
I will say, I was terrified when I realized that that's what
I
that
remember because I
system
was
is.
in a call with you when you started it, and you were scared, like legitimately afraid.
Because I'm not the biggest fan of those kind of combat systems. I find them to be very like disorienting and
Yeah, I
frustrating.
agree.
But that being said, what I realized when I was playing this was that the only time I'd ever experienced directional combat like that was in multiplayer games, which I'm still not a fan of. Things like I played War of the Roses way back in the day, if anyone remembers that. I played like Mordhau and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
That in multiplayer form, I just still hate and I'm not a huge fan of. Single player, I'm actually far more about it.
You know what? I also
see its
like.
Other
merit a
people are
lot
too
more.
cheesy and spammy. I
Yes.
I
like
like
it.
in Mountain Blade, you can kind of ignore the directional combat by just going with a bow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That
It's a
the
valid
direction
strategy.
well, and
is
here's the other
Becomes a
1,000 meters
third-person
over
shooter.
there.
and here's the other thing that I did to make it a lot easier on me. I just stuck with sword and board the whole time.
Yeah,
Just so that
shield
you can just
means
hold
that
up your shield and
You don't
it
care
doesn't
about like
matter
what
what
direction you're
direction.
blocking in general, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
until the
I'm going
shield
with
breaks.
Yeah.
I'm going with Pike and Shield so far for my guy.
Very
Mhm.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I like
I think I have
poking
an
people.
interesting perspective on this game because this is a game that I've followed throughout early access and played throughout early access. It's been full launch now. It's a year past full launch. So we for this played a very polished like final version of this game, whereas the early access period was rough. Of like, it was just hard to know what was working and what wasn't because they didn't really track like what skills were implemented and what wasn't. So you'd see the skill tree and you go like, oh, that looks fun. Then you try to use it and it wasn't actually working. But that isn't the case anymore. Everything works and it plays really well. And they've added a ton of AI improvements recently, which are really cool. Of like, I think the hardest part of this game is often like the managing your battalions and stuff. But now you can have your companions handle them if you don't want to do it, or the charge behavior, which is like your default like go attack them command, now just works a lot better, and that your AI isn't going to be suicidal when it tries to go for it, which is really
and
nice.
that was crazy for me because I was playing this game way before that most recent update. Because that most recent update was like not even a month ago or something like that. Or
Yeah, it was
like
about 5 weeks ago, I think, which is because this went over the holidays. We did 2 months for this section of Game Pass. So if you played it before that update, it feels significantly different. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I was playing for the majority of my time pre.
And they added like the same update added a ton of weather systems and like other just really cool touches that I'm glad are in the game, and it's impressive that they're supporting it to this degree afterwards.
Kind of glad I waited to play it because
yeah,
sounds like it's better now.
It was neat, and the AI is legitimately a lot better. Like the first time I noticed it was in tournaments where they just used like shields and like their directional attacks a lot more effectively. They weren't nearly as much of a pushover.
I've played some of the older games, and there's definitely a marked improvement over the older games. Now, obviously, some of the like original Mountain Blade and whatnot is pretty old at this point, but like the AI felt much more smart in this. In that one, sometimes they would even just get like caught on objects and shit. Sometimes
There's a specific moment where the game sold me, right? And I was like, okay, I'm actually really enjoying this, right? Because I was like passively engaged at first, and then the moment where it clicked for me was the first fight that I had against an like an enemy group that was all horseback, right? And at the time,
The
didn't
mount
really
part of
like.
Mountain Blade.
There you go.
very powerful, by the way.
Well, that's the thing is that I hated horse combat at first. I'm much better at it now, but it definitely takes some getting used to, right? So what I
you
would
have to
do for
really
a
like
lot of the
predict where
early,
you're gonna be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like pre-planning ahead, but my first batch of fights in the game, I would just hop off my horse because most of them were like the enemy team were on horseback anyway, and I'd rather just fight them on foot. But I underestimated what happened. I got off my horse, and then a bunch of horsemen were just coming at me and all of my guys, so I got us all in like a circle, and we just waited. And then the like sound and the sounds of like the horses and the sounds of the yelling as they were just plowing through all of us was awesome. And it was like really like cinematic, and it was really intense, and it was a moment that wasn't done from a cutscene or anything. It was just completely like part of the gameplay, and it was just
Just wait
it
until you
was
get to
so
participate in
cool.
some sieges, Wyatt. They're so cool in Mount and Blade
Yeah.
because you are like actually storming the walls or defending them, and you get to set up
Oh,
all your
yeah.
formations and everything.
I just had a really cinematic moment just before this, and I wish I could have like clipped it or something. It was a tiny moment, but I was like, oh, it was cool as hell. Literally just some like random, Viking raider kind of guy I was fighting. He goes to like throw his javelin, and like moment of release, I fire my bow. It hits him directly in the head, and I like dodge out of the way of the javelin.
Ooh. I do think why you bring up like the point that I was having that have the most trouble with this and Age of Empires is the troop formations that
Yeah.
that keeps getting me. I don't know how to do that at all, no matter what game it's in. I don't know why.
It's here. It's kind of clunky, and for me, because I avoided it for a little while because there's a certain level of like you don't have enough troops to really. First of all, there's a certain level of troops where they just don't let you do it at all, just because it doesn't
Yeah, you need to be
like
above like 10 or 12 minimum, I think.
something like that. But I'm at in my current playthrough, I'm at like 80 something troops right now, right? And a
Damn, that's
lot
more
of
than
it
me.
is just using the like function keys and number row and stuff. You just have to like do it for a while, and it becomes natural over time, which is not the biggest sell in the world.
Yeah, it's also you're
But
not
it
really
starts to
meant to
make
do it
sense.
while you're still moving. I think that's often some of these people will try to do it while they're actively playing the game, which you can
Mhm.
at a certain point. You get good enough to do that, but for most people, I'd encourage you to just like stop, put the thing in, and then keep going instead of trying
Yeah.
to micromanage it while you're
Yeah,
playing.
I feel like
But
it's kind of meant to be something that you sort of command from the back, and then you can like get up in there and fight, but not like
yeah.
mid fight be ordering
Yeah.
commands.
What I started to do, the general strategy that I had that allowed me, it was repetitive enough where I could learn all of the different um, orders and stuff. What I would do is wait until the enemy's in range of my like archers, and then I would send out the cavalry. I would send out the like mounted um, archers, and then when they were close enough, I would just have everyone else charge. And that was a good a. It's a decent strategy, especially in like the early game. But it also, like when you do it enough, it kind of teaches you how to navigate through the different formations and commands and stuff. When you do it enough, it's good like
Yeah.
practice.
It also depends what you enjoy and what difficulty you're on, because I think we all played on the default like warrior difficulty, which is that
Mhm.
you're a little bit more damage resistant than regular people.
Mhm.
You do a little bit more damage just to make you feel stronger, but it's still complicated and challenging because the enemy AI is linked with your own party's AI in terms of difficulty. So it's not that like you're gonna have a super easy time regardless, but you can, as long as you pick fights that are sort of at or below your weight of like you have 100 troops, you don't want to pick a fight with 500, but with another
Yeah.
like group of 50 to 100 you probably can win even without directly participating. So it's sort of just like a risk assessment thing too.
Yeah, I ended up playing it super safe for most of. Well, I should say I went to a second save because my first one I just got steamrolled by bandits over and over again. There was like no way out. I was like, I have no money to hire guys, so I
Yeah,
die and get taken prisoner.
it's not a
It's
soft
real
lock,
rough.
but it's demoralizing.
And
It's
I was
real rough in the
so
beginning.
early on. I was like, let's just start over. And from there, I played it super safe with
Oh yeah,
like
what kind
only
of characters
picking.
did you guys make? Sorry,
I
I didn't mean
did.
to interrupt you.
I did like a sword and board type character. I think I put a lot of stats into leadership. I put some into blacksmith as well. And then into charisma.
There is also like a whole blacksmithing mini game.
Oh yeah, I think
too.
that's new for this.
I think I did like
Mount Blade
one in
2
blacksmith,
Yeah.
and then the majority of them was just like, I am the big strong meathead character.
Which I will
Fight,
say,
fight, fight.
much like Skyrim, you can easily break the game if you focus a lot on blacksmithing, because it can
Oh
get
no.
you
Is
it
there
can
an
get you a
alchemy
lot
restoration
of
loop?
it can get you a lot of money really quickly, because you can do like orders. You can accept orders from people in a certain town to create stuff with them
Oh.
for them with your
Yeah,
blacksmithing skill.
I like
And so if
made
you
a
can
sword for
DoorDash.
the Empress or something.
so if you level up your skill enough and you do enough of these orders, you get a ton of money like very early on.
Mm-hmm. Did anyone swear allegiance to a kingdom in this at all?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
I got to about that point, but I haven't yet.
Because you can do that very early on, actually, and that's a good way to sort of get out of that early game loop, is to go just pledge to one of the kingdoms and basically be a soldier for them, and that way you're not stuck in the kind of bandit.
It gives you a lot of direction too.
Yeah.
With that path, does it like put you in command of your own battalion right away?
Yeah, you
with
sort
that
of are
kind
like an
stuff?
officer, basically. So you
You
have your own
keep
battalion.
your warband, basically.
It's basically privateering, right? Like, so you're a privateer in service of them, which makes it a lot more fun and dynamic, and it lets you get into the political game. And even if you're not actively doing it, you can see the AI doing it to like know how to manipulate it later, which is very cool.
There's a whole like clan system in this game too, and so like there's a certain point, I didn't delve into it a ton in my time, but like there's a whole like political like marrying people and marrying family members to make ties to like
yeah
the other political factions and whatnot. It's basically just medieval empire.
But it has
simulator.
a lot of like Crusader Kings light systems in it that are just more understandable versions of like the real-time strategy stuff in Crusader Kings.
I honestly think it's a really, really unique game. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, I think to me this is a genre I really enjoy, and there's very few games in it. There's like Mountain Blade. I think the old Star Wars Battlefront 2 Galactic Conquest mode is very similar, and stuff like that, where you just have like commanding troops and you get to play as them or as a foot soldier. I think it's very fun.
Now I want to
play the Mountain Blade Star Wars mod for the original.
Oh yeah, I've played a lot of that mod.
Now, there's something I wanted to something that I noticed that I wanted to bring up, or not something that I noticed, but an idea that popped up in the back of my head. Now that we've all played it and we're talking about it, I'm curious what you guys think. As I was playing this, I was thinking to myself, this is what Skull and Bones needed to be, like a pirate version of this.
So that is what Sid
How
Meier's
awesome
Pirates
would
is.
that would have
Like, that is what Sid Meier's
how-
Pirates is, and that it's the best pirate game that's been made, and no one has done it since, and I'm so upset. I personally,
And no one ever will, because people don't learn.
Like the like real time combat and everything too.
Sort of. So Sid Meier's, it's an older game. So the real time combat is more of like a mini game than an actual real time combat thing. But you can like go on foot and explore little areas, and you can like do the dancing thing with people to sort of become, you know, like court people in the different isles and whatnot. I'll link a game that's coming out called Caribbean Legends, which is a new game coming out. That's sort of it's built off of the engine of an old game called Sea Dogs, which is sort of the equivalent of what a pirate Mountain Blade would be. But it's super jank, like Eurojank games. But they look super interesting, and I'm very excited to try to jump into that when it comes out. But yeah, these games just don't get made. Like it's bizarre because I think they're single player focused, and for some reason there's this weird like the pirate games have to be multiplayer idea going around right now, which is really strange. Like I just don't get it.
Well, because of Sea of Thieves. Because Sea of Thieves is
but like Sea of Thieves did it. Like they've done it, and even then Sea of Thieves
Why
people
would you
want it to be
no,
less multiplayer, right? Like
well, that's what I'm
you
saying.
don't understand.
That...
Sea of Thieves did it, and they make a lot of money, so that means it's the only way to do it. for the next
that's-
I
15
wish
years,
people would
everybody will be
stop.
doing it that
Black
way
Flag
until all the
made
other
a lot of money
options.
too.
I wish people would stop thinking that way. It's like, oh, they're already doing this. Let's do something else. Like that's an interesting twist instead
Yeah.
of dogpiling.
Oh, it's also
But
one
no,
of the I like the
Black-
crew mechanics in Starfield and stuff like that, where you have. It's just fun to have that like light tactical layer of getting to choose. Hey, I have this like party of people that might be pretty big. Where do I want them to go? Do I want them doing something when I'm not there? Stuff like that. I think it's really fun to manage that and then be able to actually play the game alongside them.
Yeah.
It's just Mountain Blade does that
Well,
perfectly.
And that was the other thing that was in that massive update recently. Was from what I understand, a lot of the like, if you send one of your lieutenants and a battalion of guys off somewhere, the like percentages of success is like not as skewed as it was before. So you can actually rely on your lieutenants a lot more
Yes.
when you're not there.
Oh, nice.
I did it a couple
Which is
times for
nice.
shit I just didn't want to do.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's just
Like,
really
I got
delegate
like
like
50
that,
guys.
because that sort of gives
Send
you
10 of 'em.
the command feeling of like an actual military commander isn't micromanaging every single thing under their control all the time. They're probably delegating most of it. And so I think it's very fun to like move from having to do the micromanagement to being able to delegate as a gameplay thing of like the game changes as you get further along. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positive to say about Mount and Blade. I don't know. Any other thoughts?
It's
I'm gonna
definitely not
be-
for everyone.
I'm going to be continuing to butt my head up against this until I like it because I want to.
Oh, it's definitely like a weird game, and I could definitely understand if somebody doesn't
I
like
also I hate micromanaging in games,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be an unfortunate hill.
I think you have to hit the point where you're beyond that. I think you'll enjoy it once you hit the point where you can just sort of hit the charge button and it works.
Ryan,
Yeah,
you're,
I'm
you're not
also-
suggesting to me to you're not saying to me that, oh, don't worry, it gets good 40 hours in.
No, I'm saying it'll get good at 2 hours in when you decide to hit the charge button instead of trying to manually command your troops and just pick the right
I hit the
fights.
charge button almost every time because I only fight when I know I'm gonna win.
Exactly. Like if that's what you enjoy, play it that way and you'll have a lot of fun. Yeah. All right, Wyatt. I think this is pretty universally praised for all of us, Brett. I don't know if you had different feelings because we kind of commanded the conversation. away from
No, yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
said you
fine.
had. Oh no, you said you had thoughts on the other game.
No, I thought it was good. I didn't really know what kind of game it was because after a point, if you're not into them, all the medieval realistic like RPG strategy-ish games just blend together and look exactly the same to somebody who's just watching other people play. But I was able to go, yes, this is the one that I saw my friend Tyler play that one time. Although probably the first one. No, it was cool. I like the best part about it is that you can do stuff on foot because I don't really care about commanding big swaths of people. It kind of it reminds me of like a it's like a medieval version of Spore where you like it has that same like level of development where things
I
get
like that
more
comparison, Brett.
complex. It's
fun.
it's
That's an
there's
insane comparison, but you're also not wrong.
it has that same level of like your guys like develop or whatever and things get kind of more and more complicated but less and less like difficult for you to manage if you do things right and stuff. The thing that I like most about the game is that the environments are really nice. And I kept like just wanted to walk around like the towns or like the first little because I started at the snowiest, most alpine kingdom
Hey,
because
same here.
that time of year, I ain't looking to be warm. I'm looking to be frigid. And just they just nailed that like atmosphere of like gray skies and stuff. And
Yeah.
I was legitimately surprised. I was expecting that to be like an afterthought, but no, you do really feel like you are trotting along the mountain paths and stuff.
As well as how varied all
Right.
the maps are and stuff. They do a really good job of varying up the
Well,
combat maps.
And the cool thing about it too is that it provides you the opportunity to like walk into town and walk around and kind of immerse yourself in the world. But it also
Mhm.
gives you the opportunity, if you're someone who just doesn't care about that, you can just select in a menu where you want to go or who you want to talk to and like skip all of that. Like if you're trying to do something quickly, or you're just like very impatient, like you can just like, oh, I want to go talk to this person in this tavern in a menu, and it takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who wants to slow down and immerse yourself, you can go to the main gate in the town and then walk all the way in.
They're
Go to
all
the
unique
tavern.
and different and have cool
Yeah.
layouts. Like it's very interesting, and the architectural style in the different kingdoms is very different too. Like it's not a one-to-one copy of it's all this sort of medieval Europe design. There's a kingdom that's more
there's
like Abbasid and very
and
desert.
there's like a couple of different city styles for each of the kingdoms.
There's one
it
that's
seems.
very like Roman inspired.
Yeah.
Like ancient Roman inspired. There's one that's very like Viking.
There's not even to mention this game does also just has a thriving multiplayer community too that is very much a, if you want to do, you can do the like command battles and multiplayer where both players have like a battalion that they're commanding against each other, which is cool. Stuff like that, as well as just regular sort of like chivalry style multiplayer that is one-on-one. You're not commanding people, which is, I just appreciate that exists. Modding is huge for these games too. Tons of mods. Nothing too crazy yet for Bannerlord because I think the game's still getting actively updated, so it's not getting a ton of like crazy mods.
You said there was a Star Wars one for the first
There's
one?
a Star Wars
That's
mod
for the
for Mountain
original
Blade
game.
1, or Mountain Blade Warband, which is the like
No,
sequel to 1.
I think it is. I think it is the original.
They're for both. There's two. I know I was playing a Warband one not too long ago.
I think way back in the day, it wasn't out for Warband yet.
Warband is the default like modded one, just because it's a newer than one and runs better on modern stuff. But yeah, I'm sure that community will move to Mountain Blade 2 over time.
Speaking of running well, play this game on a PC.
Is it not run well on Xbox?
I was very worried because it wouldn't get past the first loading screen past character creation for like a solid like 15 minutes the first time I started it, and I was like, oh dear.
That sounds bad.
Oh no.
I didn't even know this was for console.
Yeah, well, that's because I've taken up the unspoken role of being the console guinea pig for the games that are on both. So,
I'm surprised.
past that, it ran like okay, but also just don't play with a controller because it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
I can't imagine any setup where directional combat works well with a controller. I just can't see that happening.
Because it's just bound to like the directions that you're like looking. It's just on the right stick or whatever.
Feels like it works better with a mouse and keyboard than a controller.
A lot of console games have mouse and keyboard support now, right? Isn't that
a
thing?
Yeah, because especially with I mean, they make it pretty easy to hook up mouse and keyboard to the Xbox.
Yeah.
So I could have done that if
Probably
I had
for, like,
extra
Game
ones
Pass
lying around.
compatibility, more so than
Yeah, exactly. But also like all the menus are like you just control a cursor with the left stick. So you know,
I'm sure they did the best that they could.
It's a PC game that they put on Xbox.
I'm sure they were just like Microsoft was probably like, bring this over here too, and we'll help you with this part or something. They're like, okay, and they did.
Fine.
You're probably better off on. I would imagine most people would probably be playing this on PC anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Wyatt, what's your next game?
Well, you know me, I like to throw in the occasional roguelike. And so I'm going to throw in another one today. This one's got kind of a cool twist to it, though, which is why it piqued my interest. I'm picking Loot River.
Very cool.
I've played this before.
I forgot this game came out, and I wanted.
I wanted to play. I was gonna say
too.
I thought this looked really interesting, and then I completely forgot about it or didn't hear when it came out.
There may be some reasons that you've forgotten about it.
For anyone watching who hasn't heard of this or seen this before, it's a roguelike, but the unique kind of mechanic is that there's tons of sliding platforms that you control and that you slide around in the environment to like access different areas or block like enemies and stuff like that. It looks super neat, and the pixel art style looks gorgeous. So
it's so pretty.
That'll be fun to look at as well. Yeah.
All right, who's ready to go next?
I go, I suppose. Uh, I was about to say Sea of Stars because they both start with an S and they're right on top of each other in my in my Xbox. My game for this go around was Solar Ash, by the good old homies at Heart Machine of Hyperlight Drifter and soon to be Hyperlight Breaker fame.
Oh yeah.
I hope that game is good. But I am not afraid of it being bad because Solar Ash is spoilers really fun. I had played this game before, and it's just one of those time where I'm like, I'm gonna use this as an excuse to make everyone else play a game that I liked and haven't played in a bit. So yeah, it's a super cool fusion of Sonic Adventure movement and Shadow of the Colossus boss fights in a very like weird super neon like lower polyed world, which Shadow of the Colossus finally is getting some like direct like just like theft in the indie world now, which is great because that's one of the best games ever made. So if you're gonna steal from something, do it from that.
Would you call this Shadow of the Hedgehog or Sonic the Colossus?
God damn
Shadow
it.
of the Hedgehog is really close to a game that exists. So
Yeah, Shadow of the
Yeah.
Hedgehog, the Sonic.
you might get a cease and
playing-
desist for
Yeah,
that.
yes, but it's Shadow of the Hedgehog.
Shadow of the Hedgehog.
When I was playing this, because I've played this before. I played it, I think around when it first came out, but especially when I was playing it this time, in the back of my head, I was like, this feels like if a Zelda game was also a flow state game at the same time.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I was thinking. It feels very video gamey, but in a really good way.
Yeah.
You know, I was playing this earlier today because I think it was the most recent game for me. So I had started this. I meant to play this when it came out. I actually bought it and then just never played it. So, Brett, thank you for giving me the excuse to play it because I sat there. I don't remember the story or anything that was happening for the like 2 hours that I played it, but I had a good time, and I think that's a good sign. I think I hit the mental state they wanted me to be in, and just stayed there, and only stopped because we were going to do the podcast. So
It's mostly about vibes, you know.
Yeah.
Also has a
Mostly
really
about
good
vibes.
art style too.
Though
Oh,
I did enjoy all the audio
It is
logs that I found. They were
beautiful.
I'm interested in what's going on in the greater story, but
Yeah, the story is like it's a lot of here's some little tidbits and you'll figure out the rest later.
I'll say I
But for
wasn't
like
expecting
everything,
it to be as overt as it is in the storytelling. It was like you have voice acting and stuff just coming from Hyperlight Drifter. That's not something I was
Dare I
expecting.
say it? Dare I say it? It's a bit of a mystery box story. Dare I say it?
I love
why you're going to
how
have to
you-
explain what the fuck
I don't get the reference, please.
Okay, all right. Allow me to
Please.
explain. Allow me to explain. Okay, so mystery box style storytelling was an idea. It's kind of been around for a while, but it was introduced to the public via J.J. Abrams on a TED Talk. I know. I understand.
That's why none
I
of us knew what he was
understand.
talking
I know.
about.
I knew what he
But it's
was talking about. I just
essentially,
don't.
the idea of like your
like
your
it.
story. Your story is this box or what's inside of this box, and the way that you're telling your story is you're unraveling small tidbits of information, and you're unraveling mysteries that then lead you on to other questions that then give you answers, but then lead on to other questions.
Yeah.
And so it's this like unraveling kind of like mystery story essentially, which you can see in a lot of his movies. I've kind of felt that here in a lot of ways because it's a lot of like showing you things without really knowing what it all means, probably until much later on.
I mean, that's kind of how Hyperlight Drifter worked too. So
And Shadow of the Colossus.
I guess in a way it follows. But yeah, I really enjoyed the actual delivery of story here. I think the voice acting's all really good. And I enjoyed having it for sure. I just didn't expect it to be there. So
it's really helpful when you're playing Sea of Stars and taking so much
we'll get
longer
to Sea of Stars.
time to read everything. when I can just listen, because also I'm a stupid little guy who has trouble reading.
I will say
I
I had some difficulties with this game because this is like a movement platformer essentially.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't like
love
having
these
to
games
double
usually.
back when I like did like too weird of a turn and missed all those little
Yeah,
collectible bauble
there's
things.
one or two times, especially in the destroyed city area, where I took a wrong turn and then got super turned around. And then the way the ping system works to like tell you where you're supposed to go was just like blatantly unhelpful because you have to figure out how to get there. And I think in that one destroyed city area, because all the buildings look pretty similar, it got really hard to tell like where I was supposed to be going to get to the point I need to go to. And I eventually figured it out, but I was stuck for like a solid half hour trying to find the
Yeah.
last point.
That I don't like that first destroyed city area very much.
And the area immediately after is so much easier because everything looks different.
Exactly.
So you can get there. You know like where you've been and where you haven't. Whereas like with the destroyed city, I was like, have I been to the clock tower yet? Have I not? And I had been, but I went all the way back up and around trying to find the next thing I was supposed to get to, and it just took a while of like I had to check every corner of that map to find the right path to get to one of the points.
There's also some moments again in that first like city area where it feels like there's so many like small jumps and platforms you have to make sometimes where you have to slow down and like time your jumps a little bit more precisely because you're on some like more precarious areas. And I'm sure that there's fans of this game who understand the controls and like the physics really well, where they don't have to do that and they can just speed through the entire section really quickly. But it was really frustrating for a flow state game sometimes where you have to like stop, kind of figure out what's going on, and then climb or jump or something like that. And it was like, no, I just want to go.
Yeah.
Just like
I
Sonic
the
the
I
Hedgehog.
oh my god, no, you're absolutely right. The grinding on the on rails felt exactly like Sonic.
Yeah, soap shoes.
It felt very Jet Set Radio to me. I'm a big fan of any game
Yeah,
with
yeah.
skating as a mechanic, so yeah, I had a great time. I'm definitely gonna keep playing this one. I expect I'll finish this from the games that we played today. I think this amount late are the two that I'm keeping
Yeah,
going
when
with.
I
But
It's
when I
really
played
enjoy.
this, go for it. I'll go for it.
I wish it was a little bit easier to pick up and put down. Not like it. Not story wise, but I feel like there's the the little like dungeon puzzle areas are big enough to where it's just a big like significant amount of time where I don't feel like I can really put it down in the middle of doing them.
Yeah, yeah, it's that, and also the movement is like unique to this game in certain ways
Mm.
enough where it's like I had finished. I think I forget if I platinumed the game or not because I had it on PS4 when it first came out. And I was like, hell yeah! And I basically finished the game in like 2 days. But it's been years since that point, and so picking it up again to refresh my memory, I was like, oh man, I'm stuck now. I gotta remember how to do this shit.
There was how much trouble did you guys have on the first boss, that serpent guy?
I had a little bit. I just had to get a handle of the controls because for me the hard
I
part is doing the grapple and then going back to regular movement. It took me a while to grasp.
I
Mm.
had a horrifyingly difficult time doing that.
Oof.
I think a lot of
35
it is
attempts
really
for
hard for
that
me to
asshole.
tell it when I'm on the safe part and when I'm about to get off of the safe part into the yuck on
There
the
was
big
definitely-
creatures because they do the thing where there's like gaps between a lot of the armor plates that you kind of just can't see from the angle that you're going
Yeah,
at.
there was definitely some jumps I made that I thought were like safe and they just weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one for me, or like the bigger, might have been the third. The bigger like floating fish one was harder for me just because there were a lot of points where like I would spin around it and like a tentacle would move across the screen and I thought I had to like dodge it, but I didn't. It was just like a visual effect and not actually a physical effect.
I'm
But
halfway to unlocking that boss fight. I mean that area.
yeah, nothing that's like impacting my enjoyment, but little things that are like I can see why this would give people trouble, and I don't think it's a problem with the game. I think it's just like anytime you're moving that fast on a thing, it's just hard to make it that clear what you're supposed to do.
That's the not the problem, but that's the difficulty that you could have with flow state games. Is that if there's something that impacts that state even a tiny bit, you're gonna notice it, and it's gonna like it's gonna take an effect on you very quickly.
Yeah,
Whereas
I'd
with
kind of
other
put it in the
games,
way like there were moments in this where I didn't understand what I did wrong, and that's kind of the killer of flow state. Whereas if I understood what I messed up on, like if I missed a jump and I knew that I missed the jump, I was like, oh well, I can do that different next time. So like it took me a couple of attempts on the final boss I beat before this, but I didn't feel bad about that one anymore because I always knew like what I had done wrong. But there were one or two on that earlier boss where I was like, oh, I missed a thing that I feel like I should have gotten that I didn't get. But it's super minor complaints comparatively.
yeah.
And they make retrying very, very easy too.
Yeah, very
which,
quick and
thank
snappy.
goodness. There's no reason to have like a manual saving that sets you back to like the
Oh,
half an hour
God.
before what you just did. Like, no, it's fine. This is the kind of game where if you screw up or if something stupid happens, they want you to get right back into it.
Yeah,
Which is good
they'll
because it.
they'll spawn you in, and then there's one of the like shield charge crates right there. It's like,
Yeah,
listen,
yeah,
it's not meant to
exactly.
be too difficult. Just try again. Just
Yep.
keep going.
Yeah, very quick to play. I love the visual style of this game. I think this is a beautiful transition to 3D
pretty.
from the like hyperlight art style. I think like similarly to Risk of Rain, everyone would be like, I don't know how Risk of Rain is going to translate to 3D for Risk of Rain 2, and it was beautiful when they did it. I'm like, yeah, I think this art style just looks so good in 3D.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're gonna get more of it too.
Yeah, seriously.
This Hyperlight Breaker looks very similar, I would
Oh,
say.
Yeah, very similar to this. Which is good because nothing else does. So I'm glad Heart Machine has found their perfect art style that just they kind of do.
It's also kind of nice that they have a signature art style. Like you're not about to be like, "Is this a Heart Machine game?" No, it is.
Yeah,
you
you
know
can
it.
tell.
Yeah, you see it and you're like, I understand what I'm getting into here.
But it's distinct enough where you can tell the difference if you're looking at Solar Ash versus if you're looking at Hyperlight
Yeah.
Breaker, Hyperlight Drifter. That's like the perfect art style for a studio, where
Yeah.
it's like we have a style, but you can still tell between our different like games, which is that's like exactly where you want it to be.
I think the thing I'm looking for from this game, as I'm like gonna continue to play more, I think what I really want to see is like wackier level design, because it kind of feels like at the point that I'm at now. And I'm sure that's why I was looking
Ryan,
forward to your
just you
response
wait.
to that, Brett, because I was like, I want to know if it's there as soon as I say that, if you're gonna be like that, because there's one or two moments in these early areas where you're like, go up a wall and you keep skating and then you're like vertical when it's happening. It's really cool that it's like messing with perspective like that.
Yep.
But then it'll go back to normal and you're kind of exploring a big area. And I love those moments where it's like there's a section
MC
in
Escher, me
the
daddy.
broken city where you're like jumping between railway lines and you have to do it in the right order and everything to keep going. And that was really fun. Just stuff like that feels really good. I want to see more of.
You will be
Especially
very
longer
happy
segments.
because all I will say is that there is an area that is entirely traversable by only rails.
Oh, we get to play
wait.
Subway Surfer?
Yeah, pretty much. I remember it being very, very fun. It's kind of far in, but it was very, very cool.
This is also one of those games where once it like introduces something to you, and then once it's run out of good ideas for that thing, it doesn't like
Yes.
it
Yeah.
doesn't pound it into you too much. You know, it's like, okay, we've gotten all the good ideas out. Let's move on to something different, and that just helps with like all of the good moments are a lot closer together, and it just keeps it keeps that pace and that momentum.
I'm playing another game right now that has that problem where I'm like, okay, I've played a couple levels and now more levels that
Bag
use
of
the
tricks is
same
empty.
mechanic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Solar Ash? I think pretty universally we all liked this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's almost I don't have a ton to say because I'm just like, yeah, it's good and it is what it is. Like,
it's almost like the anti-Mountain Blade. We had a lot to talk about with like systems with Mountain Blade because there's so much in that game, and this is more just like, okay, we gave you skates and like a sword nail thing. Go.
And that's a good premise.
You just have to
and that's it. It's great.
Go.
It's harder.
It works really well.
Well, it's a harder game to talk about because it's so much about like the atmosphere. It's about the flow. It's about the feel. So it's a lot harder for us to like talk about without you just like seeing gameplay of it or experiencing it for yourself or something like that.
The only thing that annoyed me when I played the whole thing, and when I am going back to it now, I'm reminded of it. Is it has the same. If anyone's played Hyper Light Drifter before, you can kind of like you can squint at the screen and see a certain little symbol in certain areas, and that means that there's a secret near where that symbol is. And it'll
that's
be like
cool.
something that's like hidden behind like a bush. There's a platform that you have to dash across, and it'll bring you off screen to a different area where you'll get like a coin or an unlock or a key or something, which is fun and awesome. And there's like hundreds over the whole world in Hyper Light Drifter, and it's one of my favorite parts of that game. And in Solar Ash, they do a similar thing where there's a symbol that your team leaves behind, and that's what Ryan was talking about before with the audio logs. Is that's where your teammates' audio logs that you're looking for are hidden, and that's also where you get parts of a different suit to upgrade and change into that has different like abilities and stuff. Some of them are very fun to find, and some of them are very not fun to find. And like I remember some of them taking me like forever, and they're just in like a really weird spot, which like yeah, they're hidden, so good. But some of them were just barely going. Like that was when the pacing of the areas started to kind of like weaken a little bit for me because I'm spending so much more time there looking for where the symbol is.
I think that's why I stopped playing the first time, was because
That makes sense.
I was like stuck in like a specific area, or I was looking for something for so long, where I was like, okay, I'm done. And then like I think like another game had come out during that time, and then I was gone.
That makes sense. Yeah, if you don't have anything, if you have another obligation, that's like those times where it's really easy to just like, oh, well, this just came out, so whatever. But yeah, that's the only times for me at least when this game gets a little bit screwy. But then you're rewarded with a suit that both looks cool and has a pretty helpful like you get an extra boost or you take less damage or something.
Did you feel like there were any like junk traits on suits that you were able to find, or did they all like have unique stuff that you felt like worthwhile trying out at least for a little bit?
As far as I remember, because there's only one per area, so there aren't that many in the first place. It's not like there's like 100 different combinations or anything. There's just like 8 or something. And I do remember sticking with one, and I think it was one that just made me go faster because it was more fun. But there's stuff like getting more money per goop you pick up, doing more damage, taking less damage. And so they can make certain boss fights a little easier too, but you have to find them to put them together and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is pretty much everything on Solar Ash, unless anyone else has last-minute thoughts. All right, moving on. Alex, let's talk about Sea of Stars.
Wait, what's Brett's game?
Brett picked.
Oh yeah, Brett, you gotta pick your game.
You're just desperate to talk about Sea of Stars.
I am desperate to talk about that. I got a lot to say about Sea of Stars. Like,
well, I'm desperate for that too, so I'll get this over with quick. But for some reason, you can't see it on any of the Game Pass things yet. But Palworld comes out in 5 days relative to recording, and it is going to be on Game Pass. And I'm so curious about what that game is going to be. It could be a horrible, yeah, it could be a horrible tactless like strategy that's just like feels like the game Hatred but with Pokemon, or it could be genuinely funny.
I think that it's going to be hilarious either way.
Yes, so we're gonna play that when that comes out. I'm so excited.
Cool.
That's great. I was playing that one either way.
Was this soon? Now I'm so excited, Brett. I'm so excited for this.
Was that picked? Did somebody pick that on the?
I did.
Yes.
The big old list.
I did.
All the previews have been positive. I'm so
excited.
I'm shocked.
Hey, Pokemon hasn't advanced their formula in years. It's time to do it
took
ourselves.
One new thing to advance the formula. Firearms.
Gun.
All right. Well, Alex, now it's time to tell us about Sea of Stars.
All right. Well, I picked Sea of Stars. People probably heard of it. around the Game Awards and whatnot.
A lot of
It was
praise.
pretty critically acclaimed. It's sort of a retro JRPG styled game, much like I don't know, a lot of the sort of SNES and NES RPGs, though the combat mechanics are a little bit more modern and unique.
Was
But
this made by the people who did The Messenger?
Yes,
or was
that
that
is
Yes.
Sabotage
Yeah.
Studio.
which I think I would personally recommend more. At least for me, I like The Messenger a lot more. That game is similar, that it's based on sort of a NES and SNES game era.
one of the
but
first
it's like a
bosses in the
Ninja
DLC
Gaiden,
made me
basically.
almost throw my controller.
Well, these games are actually set in the same world.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like take a look at the map in Sea of Stars, that mountain's the big mountain you're climbing in The Messenger.
Oh, that's so cool.
But Sea of Stars is like thousands of years beforehand or something like that.
Yeah,
didn't get
it's
super.
when everything isn't consumed by darkness and like all
Yeah,
the timelines are collapsing.
I'm not super into the story. I didn't get a ton into the lore and story on Sea of Stars. I'll be honest.
What are you talking about?
Well, that's kind of the thing. Is like this game is super critically acclaimed. I wasn't super into it. I'll be honest. I didn't think it was bad by any regards. But it just wasn't gripping me super at the beginning, and I'm not a huge fan of the sort of JRPG genre that this is taking a ton of inspiration from, which I think I probably would have been a bigger fan had I fan of this game was I a bigger fan of the genre. But I did think that the gameplay was the combat was really tight, and I enjoyed it. I do think I want to come back to it another time and give it another shake. But at this point, it wasn't super for me. I know that Ryan and Brett have a lot of things to say.
I'm sitting here fuming in my seat.
Oh yeah, so
Alex.
I'm waiting for
Fuming? Oh
the
my
point
God.
to
Okay.
jump in.
So, Sea of Stars is a game that got like super high praise. A lot of people called it JRPG of the year. It even won Game of the Year in a few places.
It won
Best independent.
Best Indie, right?
Yeah,
at
it
the
won Best
Game
Indie.
Awards.
I have really complicated thoughts about this game because I think it's beautiful. I think the art style here is absolutely
gorgeous.
drop dead gorgeous. This is
It
one of
is.
the prettiest
Absolutely.
JRPGs I've ever seen. The combat system I actually like. I didn't get super far. I mean, I played 2 hours of this game, but
It
by
felt-
that point, you still only have 2 party members, and you're only doing the same like 2 combo attacks because you have like your regular attack, you have your combo attack, you have skill and a healing skill and all that.
There was a lot in the beginning of front loaded, just like walls of text. I feel
Yeah,
like.
and-
I like
2 hours
have-
is not a ton.
Yeah, I like how the combat
Very
feels
slow.
similar to Enchained Echoes. How you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about your health in between fights.
But I
Oh,
actually
yes,
think
that's
I think part of the problem is that we played Chained Echoes before this, and I think Chained Echoes has a better combat system that is more engaging. Chained Echoes has a much faster start that is really good. It throws you into the shit immediately, whereas Sea of Stars just like it takes a while to get going. It does the thing where like you're in the future, right, and then you're doing a thing with these 2
Time
characters.
for a
in the future.
flashback.
But then it goes time for a flashback. But the problem is the reason you usually do that is because something exciting is happening in the future. But
I
nothing's
feel like
happening. There's
we didn't
nothing
meet
going
the
on.
characters at all
They're
before
sitting
they
down
had
for a
flash.
hammer
I have a
time.
theory. I have a theory that entire beginning of the game. I don't know if this is right or not, but that entire like beginning part where you like separate and you're trying to find a way through the mountain, right?
Mhm.
Right before the flashback
Mhm.
was put in after the fact to make the beginning not seem quite as slow as it actually is.
It's just I wonder, dude. That might be it.
I
I
also
swear that's what it screams to me is, oh shit, this is way too slow. Let's put
And
a
I do
few
want to
combat
reiterate here.
encounters here
We
before the actual
only
combat tutorial.
we only usually play 1 hour to 2 hours of these games. We're very early in Sea of Stars. It
I-
might get way better. Like I
I
want to preface
played
everything I'm about to
further.
say by that.
I have
really-
played further. You want to say that?
Yeah, Brett?
And it's still really slow.
I do feel like I really want to point out that there is a pretty big twist to the gameplay and stuff in Messenger, their previous game, a significant amount into the game.
Yeah, it's like halfway through the game, right?
Yeah, and so I don't want to say they might not do something like that with this game as well, but I don't know, and the beginning is very slow.
Yeah, I mean, the real problem to me, and Brett, you can correct me if this gets better later on, but it's not even the writing. Like, I don't want to say I think the plot is bad. I think they got everything in this game polished to a T. It was ready to ship. It's so good, and then they just forgot to get an editor. That is my biggest issue, is that like, and the Messenger was kind of like this too, but it stands out less than a platformer just because you're not expecting a serious story. But here, there's things like there's not really spelling mistakes, but there's like grammar problems of like you'll have a sentence that goes where a character's text box just says with no punctuation, and then like no comma or anything. It looks weird. It reads wrong, especially when you have no voice acting.
With the no voice acting thing, I've had a lot of trouble following the flow.
Exactly, like the flow is just weird because when you don't have voice acting, you need the text to do the flow for you.
I was also getting to the point, and this was partially me. Like I said, I just moved, and I was like, I need something a lot more actiony than this. But I don't want to say I was skipping dialogue, but I was skimming at times because I was just like, this guy's got like 6 text boxes in a row.
Well, yeah, because I will challenge what you said, Ryan, and say that there is a problem with the writing, is that it is so like self-indulgent, and that it will take 20 million years to explain something to you. That probably could be said in like a paragraph.
And I do have one huge problem. I'm curious if you agree, Brett, with it along those lines of at the start you get this like thing where your characters have finished their training, they're gonna do a thing, and they swear some vows. And I was like losing my mind at this because the vows are like the worst vows I've ever heard. Where like the guy goes, Zale, I think his name is, goes up and goes, I swear, I was like, when you swear vows, I'm expecting it to be like, I'm going to spend my life protecting the world from the darkness or something like that. But he actually just goes, I swear I'm going to be fast and quick, so I'll be a blade dancer. And I'm like, what?
I'm going to be super cool and to have a sword.
I'm going to hit things really hard, and my staff's not going to break because it's a staff.
How fast can you go? I can go so fast.
It was like playground logic, and I'm just like, this is not a ceremony. Like, don't build this up to be so important. If the things they're gonna say are then, I have a staff, so I'm gonna hit things really hard. And it's not like I'm gonna hit things hard to protect the darkness. It's I'm gonna use a staff and be a monk because the staff won't break when I hit things. I lost my mind.
But it's it's worth saying, I don't think this game is like bad or like the worst thing ever or whatever. I do genuinely want to finish it, but I want to finish it because I want to see what the hell everybody else saw in it. Because I just don't. I understand you got Yasunori Mitsuda on the soundtrack for like 15 songs or something, and his stuff's great. The in-house guy is also really good. Their music styles blend together.
Yeah.
Messenger had great soundtrack. Yeah.
The combat is fun, but the story and the world that they're in and the characters are like super difficult to like get into past a certain point because of the pacing and the grammar.
I'm curious too if some of it might be a stylistic choice. But if it is, I still don't really like it.
It almost has like Pokemon style writing, and people do nothing but bash that. And I will say this is a studio that is from Quebec City. They probably speak French as a primary language and not English.
Oh, there's your problem there.
This is likely a translation issue and not just a regular. I could be wrong about that, but I would bet this is a translation problem.
Probably
the base writing. But it's just like, it's so unflourishy.
Still, I can't imagine there's not plenty of people that speak English at the studio.
I don't know. I lived in Montreal for 6 months as a student. I think a couple of us here did. And it's very...
Yeah, I did as well.
Very much not an English-speaking place. I don't know much about Quebec City, but if it's similar, then I would not be surprised.
I have been to Quebec City, and it's just the same, if not more French. But... But still, I can't imagine.
A French person a French Canadian.
I can't imagine there wasn't at least one English speaker, but that's part of what made me wonder if it was a stylistic choice too. Was is it emulating some of the dialogue issues that are in some of the classic JRPGs that do for sure have some translation issues?
But like
Yeah.
none of the ones that it's
Not in a
taken
cheeky
off
way.
of.
Not
Like Chrono
not in
Trigger
a funny
has
way.
like a renowned translation. Same with the SNES Final Fantasy games. And then the combat is just from Paper Mario, which I haven't heard a single thing about its translation ever, and it's a Nintendo game, so I would just assume that it's fine. But like if it's a stylistic choice, then okay, there's a sequel to Chrono Trigger. It's called Chrono Cross. Every single playable character in the entire game has a different like the translator would type in what they were going to say, and he programmed an algorithm to re-say what they'd say with an accent, so that like you get like
that's
a
wild.
you change like would you do this for me, and it's like would you do this for me, laddie? Like it would change it to have like a written like comic version of an Irish accent, and it's like it's
That's
cheesy and
interesting.
stupid, but that's like if that's a stylistic choice, why wouldn't you make it obvious? Because otherwise it just comes off as typos and bad grammar.
I don't disagree with you, but it was the
Yeah,
idea I
yeah.
wanted to float because they're very much into sort of emulating that retro style in many regards.
Yeah, I think Sea of Stars is weird to me because I do think the art style and the combat system are enough to make me want to finish this. But it's low priority, and it's also a case of like, I think for me this is particularly a weird showing because over vacation I started playing Star Ocean: The Second Story, which is a remake of a PS2 game that's really, really good. It's the same setup basically, where you've got two characters that you pick from at the start. And this is another thing that bothered me at the start, where they go, "Hey, your choice of main character, you can change it anytime, and it doesn't matter." I wish they just didn't tell me that. Like, just don't tell me that it doesn't matter.
It's like telling me there's no reason to pick. Like,
it's like it doesn't matter who I pick. I'm like, okay, and I still don't know the difference because when I play the game, it doesn't seem to make any difference at all.
Yeah.
Which is like compared to Star Ocean, you get like dramatically different experiences depending on which character you play. There's like different party members and different stuff of like one character is a space person, so they have all the sci-fi knowledge at the start, where another person is like from the planet, so she's not got any of the sci-fi stuff. So it really changes the tone of the game depending on which one you pick, and I think that's really interesting. And not getting that with a setup here is just like, well, at that point, don't make it a big decision at the start. Just be like, hey, who do you want to be the leader at a party, and just have it in the menu as an option. So yeah, I think that was misleading, and I think to me it just shows worse because of that I'm playing Star Ocean: Second Story at the same time, which is just a really, really phenomenally good port of a game, or remake of a game that's also just extremely well written. And plays really well. It's got a unique action combat system, so I think it's just like a bad comparison. But at the same time, it kind of rubs me the wrong way after seeing all this won so many awards, and I'm looking for why, and I haven't found it yet. Outside of the art style, which is absolutely gorgeous, like that alone would keep me playing this game.
So, is this the part of the discussion where I come in and say that of all of the like turn-based JRPGs that I've played in a while, this one's kept my interest the most?
No, the gameplay is fantastic. It's
we all
really
like the
fun.
gameplay.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that like while I was playing it, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. And I don't know if these are like found in a lot of other JRPGs or not, right? But I liked the idea of having that cadence of like, oh, your melee attacks refuels your MP gauge, and so you have to find that right rhythm of like combining because that was one thing that I always hated in other JRPGs that I played, where like if you need to refill your MP or your health,
it's
or
a
something,
potion that takes an action.
Yeah, and it's like, and it just like slows everything down, and I was never a huge fan of it. But now, not only do you have a way to heal your MP, you have an entire third character that's essentially just dedicated to hucking meals to people like the actual damage dealers, which I thought was really cool. I loved the like food cooking, the stuff and the with the fishing mini game. I love that there's a lot of, when you're walking around, there's a lot of like traversal stuff. Like you're hopping across things, you're like shimmying across like cliff faces and stuff. I was like, I don't know, this is like keeping my, because in terms of like the writing, I'm on board with you guys. But I was like, God, for a JRPG and someone who tends to not like those things, this one's keeping my interest a lot more.
Oh yeah, I think there
because you've never played Chrono Trigger before.
Nope.
I think there's a lot to like there, and I do think that I'm probably going to come back to this game to give it another shake. And I didn't get super far, but as I was getting further, there was more and more I liked about it as the world opened up and whatnot. But yeah, it almost, the writing's not the reason I'd keep playing it.
Yeah.
I almost think there's this weird mix of just their story presentation style is not up to, I don't want to say like it's not up to par, but it's just not done in a way that suits the game best. Of like, I think we have a lot of competition in the space of pixel JRPGs recently that all do different things really well, and like Octopath Traveler 2 has a really, really solid way of like doing visual storytelling, which this game doesn't have. Sea of Stars just has better, or not Sea of Stars, Star Ocean has better writing, and good voice acting the whole way through, where Sea of Stars doesn't have voice acting at all. So you're in this weird space where like it's telling the story through text, which is fine because like I play plenty of text only games, but this is not grabbing me in the way that I would want it to.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the writing is less of the problem than the intro is too, because
like maybe this gets better halfway through or something, or after this starting section, but
I struggled to get into it at the beginning just because I don't know, the intro was really generic. It was, well, the intro, you fight a couple of things and then there's a flashback, but then the actual intro is like, you're a couple of kids and you walk, and then somebody tells you about how you must have more responsibility.
And I really thought that flashback would not be as long as it was. Like
that's
so agonizing. To like, again, to explain information that like could just be like dished out in a much more efficient way. The only thing that I can see it maybe justifying how long it was, right? Because they really go into the process of their training, right? The only thing where I could see that like being justifiable is there's clearly some sort of twist that they're constantly building up to.
Yeah.
I do definitely agree that there's a lot they're building towards with some of those characters.
With the what are the two characters that trained them, the other two warriors, what are their names?
Erlina and like Bravagas or something.
Burgraves, right? Burgess,
something along those lines.
They're like, oh, they have no idea what they're getting into. And it's like, okay, got it. There's something weird going on.
It's like, what happened to those other twins that died? And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then they just were like, we'll talk about it later.
And then they never do.
If that twist relates at all to the process of their training, then I can understand why they want to go in so much depth about that. Like, I understand. But this is also why, but it has to pay off.
The strength of a good intro is so important, because I think back to Chained Echoes, and like Chained Echoes does one of my favorite JRPG like starting scenarios, which is you play one of the inciting incidents, and then the character you're playing as fucking dies at the end of that opening section, and you're like, oh, well, shit. Now we gotta get into the game. That's like how, spoilers for the first 45 minutes of Final Fantasy 12, you play a character that gets shanked and dies at the end, and you're like, and then you start playing his brother, and you're like, oh, well, I'm interested now because of all that happened. Now I have like a relation to that character that was interesting. And like Chained Echoes is the same way, where you play through that and you're like, oh, well, now I'm interested in this world. I want to know like why this betrayal happened, why this war started and everything, and then you're in. Like it's hooked you. Sea of Stars just doesn't have that hook.
Yeah,
as of the
I
point
definitely
that I stopped playing. So
I
The
think that this
initial-
game must be better than I'm realizing it for getting all the praise that it
Yeah.
is. So I'm really curious what's later in the game.
Well,
And
I
I think
thought
I
the
will
initial
return
hook.
to it, but
I thought the initial hook in the beginning was what happened to Garl, right? Because they're like, "Oh, Garl, I feel so bad that happened to Garl," and it's like, yeah, he missed an eye, but like he's fine. Like,
He's so happy. He doesn't
no,
care.
he's like, it's like he doesn't even give a shit. So like when he went into
Yeah, I
like
was-
the little hospital, it was like, "Oh, I'll be fine." I was like, what the
yeah,
heck?
I was like ready for Garl to show up and be like a villain or something.
yeah, that's what I was waiting to happen. Was like, is Garl gonna show up?
And
be
maybe
the
it does,
villain?
but
maybe that will.
But does he
happen,
not?
I'm not gonna deny though. When he like shows up out of the bushes, I was kind of like, "Oh, that's kind of cute."
I'm so happy
Yeah.
too. Like the one good thing about the writing that I've seen so far is that they're not forcing the two main characters into a relationship.
Yeah, they don't seem to
They're just
really.
friends.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm tired of
They're
that.
just homies.
I also appreciate they're trying to make Garl very much like he kind of reminds me of like Samwise Gamgee quite a bit. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
that feels pretty good. Not gonna lie.
I do feel like it was somewhat foreboding with like I put the special jelly in the cookies or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like a linchpin somewhere down the line.
I don't know. This is why I'm super curious in this game, and why I'll keep playing is I just want to know, like, this got so much critical acclaim that I'm so curious what grabs people, because I know a reviewer going in is going to finish the game, right? Like, they're not going to do what we did and stop playing after 2 hours.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there is
So,
somewhat of a
I think we just stopped
flaw in
before
our
the point
format
of-
for this game individually.
If I had to
Um,
assume, if the game does like ramp up to the degree that people who finish the game have experience, it's probably has something to do with that twist that they're like.
Yeah, because like the Messenger has a crazy ramp up that's really fun, so I'm sure they have something here. And I will say, I think if you just want good JRPG gameplay, this is definitely a good package. Especially if you're into like the active systems where you have to like press the button to do the thing as you
Yes.
follow
Yeah,
up, which I do.
I'm
like.
much
I
more
like
into
that
that.
style. Of,
Valerie's
turn-based.
like a attack where like that disc is bouncing.
Yeah,
back
you know, like
between
the
the
lunar-
body.
and forth.
Dude,
Oh, that
is-
feels so good.
I wish I liked this game more, because the thing that makes me want to come back to it the most isn't anything that actually matters. It's just the lunar boomerang attack. Because I got it at one point to just like a solid like 20-25 hits or something without messing up, and it was the most satisfying thing ever. I will
Nice.
probably never do it again, but I was like, I want to see how many bonks I can get with this thing. And it's so satisfying.
I mean,
I
one
chose
like,
the
thing
sun
I
guy
have
as my
heard
main
about.
character.
I mean, you
I
still
did
get to
too.
do the boomerang thing when you're playing her turn,
Yeah.
and you can also swap whenever. So it doesn't matter who you chose.
It
as the
does
main
not matter.
character.
It's something they did not have to put into the game.
Yeah. It's not important. Yeah, I'm super curious where this is gonna go. I do think the gameplay's fun. I think a benefit that I've heard a lot about is that this game doesn't overstay its welcome. From what I've heard from reviews and whatnot, is
that's
that
good.
it's relatively, I mean, not short, but like it's relatively quick to
JRPG
hit the finish
short.
line. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's not
JRPG
100
short.
hours, right? Like it's
Yeah.
in the it's still in the 2 digits, but not too long, which is fun.
I also another thing that kind of kept me interested was I really appreciate that it's a JRPG that isn't just set in like green grass and like green trees. It's like this
Mhm.
crazy
Yeah.
color palette of like blues and purples, and I don't know. I was like,
And
this
really
looks rad.
beautiful.
This looks
Yeah.
rad. I want to
Awesome.
see
Yeah.
more.
Awesome world and environments.
Yeah.
And it
I'm a
definitely
sucker
feels
for
like
just I'm a sucker for just taking anything nature and just swapping it with a weird color. I just think it looks
Mhm.
cool.
it also to me like emphasized a lot of the sort of nature of that beginning where it's like, yeah, you're training in like magic monk, magic powers land, like even the nature here is kind of altered and vibrant
Yeah.
and whatnot.
It just kind of reminded me of I don't know if anyone else here has played Crosscode, but a game that was on Game Pass a while back, but
Yes.
isn't anymore. Crosscode is another similarly like really really pretty pixel art game with some unique stylings. The JRPG space, highly recommend that if you want like an action JRPG with great pixel art. But, all right, any other thoughts on Sea of Stars? It sounds like
I'm
a
gonna get
lot
to
of
the bottom
us are
of
curious
this.
to keep playing it, but not necessarily for reasons that the devs would want us to keep playing it.
I think
'Cause
that there was a lot of negativity just based on the intro, but there is a lot to like, and I want to give it another chance. For just also like totally unrelated reasons, wasn't super into it, so I want to come back when I have a little bit more patience for that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
And also,
try.
like to be clear, I don't think the story's terrible or anything. It was like interesting enough to like keep me going. I
Like,
don't
that hook
I don't
just
think it's
hasn't
awful.
happened, right? It's just
The hook isn't. I mean the hook right now is like, oh, what's this mystery that they keep building up to? But they haven't really made you invested enough to really like care about the hook that much. But I don't know.
And I feel like that's kind of a flaw as a Game Pass game where like I'm not invested.
Yeah.
Coming in here like, let's try this game that's super well reviewed. Hit me up with a bland intro.
all right. Well, Alex, what's your next game?
Okay, I'm gonna pick one. I might be the only one that enjoys this. I've touched this game. I've played its previous one in the series before. This is a favorite game of my dad. Farming Simulator 22.
I did not know what you were going to say, and I wasn't expecting that.
It's got multiplayer, so I can set up a farm and make you all harvest wheat with me.
Okay. Harvesting wheat.
Well, we can. This game added vineyards. You can grow olives and grapes as well.
God.
Anyway, I thought that one might be fun.
I cannot wait to play Farming Simulator. Hey, we'll be some of the only people that do a gaming podcast that have actually played Farming Simulator, I think.
Oh my god.
They have Farming Simulator competitions in Germany.
I am not surprised.
Wow.
That's where the devs are. I think.
Right. Oh, God. Okay, well, Alex, you've made my decision for me. I'm not going to give the strategy game because after playing Farming Simulator, I'm really going to want to relax with a game I actually enjoy. Which means everyone gets to play Monster Hunter Rise for my game.
Oh, hell yeah.
There we go.
Going with the one that I think will probably be enjoyed by everyone. I think Rise is a pretty controversial game. And it gets started a lot faster than World does. For people that have tried World and bounced off of it, Rise gets started much faster and is a lot more actiony. So
I tell you, Farming Simulator gets started to
World.
slow,
and
it ends up slow.
We'll see.
We'll see, but I think you might. I think you might be a dog person and have a fun time on your dog.
I mean, listen, anytime there's a video game dog, I'm never gonna be angry about that.
But yeah, Rise is great. It's a game that I've played a ton of. I'm very excited for Monster Hunter Wilds, and in the spirit of Capcom coming out with Dragon's Dogma 2 very soon, I wanted us to play something a little bit thematic, but most of us have already played Dragon's Dogma, so I didn't want to make us play Dragon's Dogma. So instead, everyone gets to play some Monster Hunter Rise. I think it'll be a fun time. All right. Well, that's all the games. We talked about all of them. We had a hopefully good time. So that means it's time for shoutouts and to close out our week in a fun style. But as a reminder, next week will be our awards for last year. So look at the spreadsheet, put your awards in, and think about all the games you played last year. Not games that had to have come out last year, but whatever you played last year. And we'll be talking about the games that we most enjoyed, hated, and any other variety of emotion last year. Mm-hmm. All right. Shoutouts. Who's ready? All right, that means it's me first because nobody else. So I have a very fun one. This is a magazine, a long form magazine that I had recently learned about called The Profound Waste of Time. And this is very cool, like Katamari Damacy art on this. It's a magazine made by a bunch of like fans of games and whatnot. But the big gimmick is that like it's got a ton of articles from industry folks that all have very different stylings. So you've got very different looks at stuff. Yeah, there's like a tarot thing in here about game development roles and a ton of other really cool, interesting things. You can order these from the Profound Waste of Time website. They're not super expensive. They're like $20 an issue. Just you might have to pay for UK shipping because they're based in the UK. But yeah, very cool magazine that is super interesting and very fun to read. Lots of game developer articles. My shout out.
Nice. I have one that I remembered in the time. Shout out to so over our like winter holiday from work, I got COVID, so I wasn't able to do too much stuff. But in like the recuperating days from that, when I was able to get like just enough energy to do stuff, I thought, hey, what's something in like the closet that I haven't touched in a very long time? And I found a bunch of jigsaw puzzles to do.
Ooh.
And so, I started out with like 250-piece things that I got from work that were like free from that were free samples from things from publication. Did those. I was like, okay, those were a breeze. Let's bring out the 100-piece puzzle. Did that in 2 hours. 500-piece puzzle. Did that in like 2 to 3 days. A 1,000-piece puzzle that took a week and a half.
Oh man.
And then, as a late Christmas present, I got something that is known as the $2 million puzzle. It didn't cost that much, though. It was, I feel like, decently expensive for a puzzle. It was like $45. It's 500 pieces, and it doesn't come with an image.
Ugh.
What
Yikes.
what happens with this is when you put the puzzle together, it's a QR code, and you scan it, and there's a monetary reward after you finish it.
That's
Within a
psychotic.
certain time period. It has to be finished by February 10th, I believe. It's either February 10th or 20th is the deadline for solving these puzzles. In 2 puzzles that they're selling out of like the thousands that they sold, the reward is $1 million. And there's
Well, if
2
we
that are
don't hear back from
500,000.
you, well, no.
he's
There-
too big for us now.
There's like multiple different tiers of like how many, like how much money is in these puzzles, like going down, and then there's like 200,000 or so that they're selling that have the monetary reward of $1. And there is no image to go off of for these QR codes. There's no possible way to know. And the pieces are very generically cut to the
Oof.
point where multiple can fit together in the same place.
Ugh.
And it's driving
It
me
sounds
insane.
like a nightmare, Alex.
It is a nightmare.
Oh,
It is wild. That's my
Wow.
shout out.
I'll go next. Not that what I'm about to shout out needs any more shout out than it has already gotten over the years, but I watched Boy and the Heron recently, which inspired me to rewatch Princess Mononoke, which I have not seen in many years. Oh my god,
I've not actually
Incredible.
it is held up and then some. I think I can appreciate it more now as an adult than when I originally watched it.
Mhm.
It's amazing. I literally like no critiques. Perfect. Great job.
The first time I watched Princess Mononoke was with Brett for a college project.
Yup. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited to keep watching more studio. Is it pronounced Ghibli? Ghibli? How do you pronounce
Ghibli.
it?
Ghibli?
I always said
Ghibli.
Ghibli.
Yep. Everyone says it differently. But I'm really
Worcestershire.
excited to watch more Studio Ghibli stuff, including the stuff I haven't seen before. Since I have been inspired to go back and keep watching. So
Castle in the Sky.
Yippee.
All right. Well, I can go next. I haven't been doing a lot besides moving and playing these games you already heard my opinions on. But I will say I recently brought home this keyboard I made months ago from work, and it's what I've been using at my desk. Oh yeah, it's don't ask the price tag here. I got a refund from work. But anyway, love having it here at home. I'm gonna unplug it, so it's not gonna have the lights on it, but not a ton of light shows through. big, it's hefty, it's metal.
Oh my goodness.
It's got a funky layout, but it helps my hands from not hurting as I was typing all day.
Huh.
Anyway, there it is for you keyboard heads.
It's supposed to prevent like pronation in your like wrists, right?
Oh, mechanical sound.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a good mechanical.
It's got Holy Panda switches. Somewhere there's a plug for me to put it back in so I can use my computer. Okay, there we go. But yeah, it's instead of typing like that, you're typing a little bit more like that. It's not a major difference to me. I prefer it a little bit. Anyway, nice to have it at home at my home desk now. Only problem is it's like 60%, 65%, something like that. Doesn't have F1 or the numpad or anything, so it's not even down to 60%. I don't remember what this one's called.
Not a Mountain Blade keyboard.
Exactly. I ran into some things that I was like, the F row I can hit like a function key, so I was okay. But there was something recently that was like, press insert, and I was, I have done.
Nice. All right, I think Brett, you'll have to take us home.
Well, this is probably the most the most obvious shout out to Alex and Ryan, but we're only 2 episodes in to Hellsing Ultimate in our in our watch group for anime and the like, and I've been wanting to watch more so bad. Because the moment that I keep thinking about that is my favorite thing that's ever happened while watching a show is basically what happens is one of the main characters is Alucard, Dracula backwards, and he he saves somebody's life by turning her into a vampire. And they're part of like a shady vampire killing organization, and the lady who leads it is like, Alucard, why did you turn the other character into a vampire in the first place if you're just gonna make fun of her all the time? And I was just like, haha, for fun. And then Alucard said, for fun. And I lost my shit. Because I was like, there's no way they could be that stupid to say the funny thing. And they said the funniest thing they could have possibly said. And the entire second episode past that point, it was still riding that high.
One of the villains kills everyone in the group to the Konami code. And it's actually a joke. Like, it's not. I'm not making it up.
Konami code killed.
He then says, "I killed you all" to the Konami code. It's
it's fucking amazing. I highly recommend if you somehow manage to avoid watching it this long, like I have. And oh man,
I'm so happy.
It's incredibly good. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note. It's the end of the show. As always, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time on the podcast platform of your choice, YouTube and Twitch. We'll see you next time for our Game Awards of 2023. Normally someone else comes in with something funny at the end, and no one did it this time.
I'm too tired. But there's nothing.
I need to pee way too bad.